Hey, I am Don, this is Angie, this is Tanisha, and we are
Just Spiritually Speaking.
And we are thrilled because today we're kicking off our interview series. Our series where we're interviewing metaphysical folks to see what they did, how they got there, how they developed their skill, and anything else they want to share with us, especially some of the experiences. With that said, right from Phoenix directly comes an interview with Tina Escoto. I am sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
And Tina is a psychic, a medium, a channeler, a healer, and far more than I can even go down on my fingers. So with that said, I'm going to turn to Tina and just say, Tina, how did you do this? How did you get there?
I haven't a clue.
Been there, done that.
Oh gosh, it's just been a whirlwind of a journey. It really has. It really started to really take place after I became pregnant with my second boy. Wow. And that was 20 years ago. So things really started amping up once I gave birth. So it's funny because I had an astrology reading after I had given birth. About my son was probably 2 or 3, and this is a woman I did not know, and she said, "You have 2 boys," and I go, "Yes," and she goes, "Your youngest child waited for you and chose you as a parent to take you from A to Z spiritually in a very fast amount of time," and that's exactly what happened. He was a major catalyst, and so that's how everything started.
So prior to you having your youngest son, right, is the catalyst. Prior to you having him, had you had any like supernatural metaphysical experiences?
Oh yeah. As a child, a little, 3, 4, 5, I remember being petrified to be in my bedroom alone. I knew there was something in there. I used to cover myself up with these big stuffed animals on my bed so I wouldn't be seen. And I didn't really think anything about it because my family's not spiritual, and they didn't know any better. And I would have nightmares during the daytime. My mom just thought it was because I watched the Dark Shadows soap opera. And I was like, no, that wasn't it. I wasn't afraid of Barnaby Collins, But I didn't realize it until later in life. I put 2 and 2 together, and I'm like, I was seeing spirits. Yes, that's what was scaring me. I was, and that happened for a long time, and then they just sort of disappeared. I lived in a haunted house as a teenager, and they never messed with me. My friends would spend the night, but they only spend the night one night. They'd never come back. So, and it used to mess with my mom, but it never messed with me. I never saw it or anything. I just knew that it was there. But other than that, I did have an experience in, I think it was 96. I was woken up in the middle of the night, and there was a dark figure standing at the end of my bed, solid black, had a fedora hat and a trench coat, and it was evil. I just knew to my core that it was not a good entity. Scared the bejeebies out of me. I didn't sleep the entire night because it chilled me to my core. And then in, I would say, early 2000s, it came again.
The same one?
Same one.
Oh, no.
But the interesting thing is that I was so much stronger in my beliefs, and I made it leave immediately, and it left immediately. And I just felt that it really wanted me to be on the dark side. I really thought that that's what it was coming there for. And I suppose if I talked to it and I said, okay, I would have been pulled into the dark instead of the light. But to me, it was a no-brainer. No, you're not welcome here. And it left.
So what is your first memory of being able to communicate with the spirit?
It's a little blurred. I had 2 situations where I had a client's husband die. And when she came and sat down in my office, he came in and sat down next to her. Yeah, it was freaky. Try to keep a straight face when you have a client in front of you and they don't, it was really crazy.
Oh.
And then the second time was when my next door neighbor committed suicide. And it was over a holiday weekend. It was a Monday, or maybe a Sunday, but that Monday was a day off. I went back to work Tuesday, and he came in and he would not leave me alone. It was just driving me nuts. And I didn't have a lifeline. I didn't have anybody to call. So the person I called was somebody that somewhat knew about this, but was a little religious, and they said, well, just pray. And I'm thinking, this isn't working. He's not going away.
He's not afraid of my prayers.
Yeah, he's not afraid of my prayers.
Right.
So I had to call his soon-to-be ex-wife, which, and talk to her and have like a 3-way conversation. It was crazy. It was very vivid, very crazy, very emotional. So that was really the first time that I really got into it.
Well, did that help to give you some kind of feel of how then moving forward that you learn the skills to also protect yourself? So when something like that happens, you then can navigate those waters? I mean, how do you do that?
That took some time. For the longest time, I was just lost. I didn't have a lifeline. I didn't have anybody to call. And I didn't have the money that some mentors wanted.
Right.
So it was trial and error. I just had to learn and try to figure it out. For a while there, when I first started in the metaphysical world, I did do a lot of protection and cord cutting. And after a while, I don't really do that anymore. The only time that I will scan my body is if I feel a little bit off, and then I do my own clearing and removal of stuck energy and things like that. But protection is something that I started to do, and then I just felt I didn't need it anymore. But you do have to have healthy boundaries. So you do have a guide called a gatekeeper, a control. I call him my bouncer because I have a sense of humor. It's a bouncer to the spirit world. And this bouncer happens to be my grandmother on my father's side, which shocked the heck out of me because I didn't even know she was into this stuff. But come to find out, that lineage on that side of the family, I had somebody reach out to me because they did the genealogy here in the Valley. And I am related to a couple mediums here in the Valley that do quite well. I had no idea. So it's on that side of the family that the lineage is. And so anyway, I just have a talk with my grandmother, and it's like, okay, these can come in, these can't. I have a no-fly zone in my bedroom, and you do not allow them to drop in. We set up an appointment. If somebody does appear, I tell them they need to go find the person that they want me to talk to. So I don't walk around seeing spirits, and I don't have drop-ins because of that.
So for people that are currently going through their awakening that don't know about cord cutting or like ancestral clearing, like how can they go about doing that on your own? Because to your point, sometimes the mentors that you're looking for are out of your price range.
Right. Gosh, there's so much information on the internet. There's so many YouTube things. Just go to what you gravitate towards. I share my templates with everybody that needs a foundation in their beginning stages. And I teach them grounding, protection, cord cutting, and I give them a template so they can make it their own, so they can incorporate that in their daily life. You know, there's times when sometimes you just need to call in a lifeline, though, and say, hey, can you scan me? Something's going on. I feel off. And, you know, that's why you should network. That's why you should come to classes like what I put on, so that you three met because of my class. And you networked, and you're doing fabulous because of it. So I encourage people to get out there and in the public, in real public spaces, not just on the internet, because you build friendships and you get your tribe and you get to know people, and so you have a lifeline to call. And you know, people can always call me too. So
if for folks who are not quite certain, we throw terms around very easily sometimes, and because we think we understand what they are, but then again, it's probably good to have a baseline. So when you mentioned the word psychic and you mentioned the word medium and channeler and healer, can you tell me what the 4 distinctions are with those?
a psychic is a person that reads a person's energy field. Things that are stored in your auric field is a psychic. A medium talks to dead people. You either see them, feel them, sense them, but it's a communication. It's a different vibration. All mediums are psychics. Not all psychics are mediums. As far as channeling goes, that's when a medium allows a spirit to use their vessel to communicate through. So when I do my healing work, I'm a conduit for spirit to come in and do healings on people. It's not me doing the healings, it's them coming through and channeling through me for healing purposes. And what was the other one?
Healer.
Healer. I just,
There you go.
yeah. There you go.
2 for 1.
2 for 1. A twofer.
Anything?
Oh, this is going to be a giggle contest.
Because my question was going to be, the one thing you've taught us in class is that the more we practice, the better our skills will get, the better our tools will get. So, how has yours progressed, or is it does it always progress? Can one go away or another, like they go
Very
back
good
and forth?
question, yeah. When I first started, I was so clairvoyant that I could describe you to a T, to every little freckle that you may have on your body, okay? And then something shifted and they made it a little fuzzy. So I had to work on other clairs. Clairs are like clairvoyance is where you see through your third eye or externally. Clairaudience is hearing internally or externally. You've got clairgustance, which is taste, clairalliance, which is smell, clairsentient, which is feeling, claircognizant, which is just knowing. So what Spirit did is I was using my clairvoyance at such a crutch because it was so vivid that they softened it so that I had to expand on my other clairs unwillingly. They sort of forced me, but Spirit does that. And so my other clairs came on. Now, ironically, I was teaching and doing a lot of mediumship reads and not so much psychic. It was more mediumship, and then psychic started kicking in. And then after that, then they started throwing me into healing and channeling. And they sort of took away the mediumship a little bit so that I would focus on the channeling and the healing. I really haven't been in control of my destiny. Spirit has, and I just follow with what Spirit tells me to do. And so one of the things I do find is I find a lot of people that come to me don't have the faith or the belief that they can do it. And I have such absolute faith in Spirit. If they tell me to do something within reason, I do it because I listen, because I'm Spirit taught. I'm not book taught. And so I find a lot of people gravitate towards me that need that faith. They need that little confidence.
That's what I struggle with, is not faith in Spirit, but faith in myself, right? Because Angie and I talk about this all the time, where we've suppressed it for so long. You got to learn how to use it.
Right.
And so I struggle with that. I'm always in my head. Because sometimes we'll be in class, and after class, Angie, she likes to ear hustle. She likes to listen when we're in other groups. And she'll hear me, and she'll be like, dang, like she's on tonight.
Yeah.
But then I'm in my head. Even though she's giving me that confirmation, and people in our group have given me that confirmation, I'm still in my head. Like, how do you get past that? Like,
you just keep working it.
You just
keep doing it. And when you're in your head, that's your ego. Ego is going to derail you every single time. Remember those old cartoons where you had the little angel and the little devil on your shoulders? Okay, that's how I look at the Spirit and ego. So I got the little Spirit over here talking to me and everything's great, but then ego kicks in and says, oh, you might be wrong. Don't say that. Or, who are you? What gives you the ability? Or, you can't do this.
Right.
That's the ego. So I just looked at the ego as throwing a little temper tantrum like a little kid, and I just like, okay, you're going to sit there during this reading because you're not welcome.
Right.
And then you connect more into Spirit. And I got to say, practicing with people in front of you helps the most. I know they do a lot of things over the internet and over the phone, and I'm just sort of old school. I like to feel the energy, and I feed off of that better. Now that brings up another thing, energy. You could have someone sitting in front of you and energetically you just don't jive. It's just not gelling. You might have a hard time making connection. It's all about energy, and it's all about the sitter and where they're at. If a sitter's like this and they're a skeptic, well, that energy just goes and it's really hard to read that. To have someone that's more open and willing and it's like, okay, yeah, I believe in this. I want a reading. Some of those are spectacular. One of the best reads I ever had was a horse. A woman had to put her horse down, and like within a few days she came to see me, and I'm like, well, usually I like to wait a little bit. But this horse came through and was showing me, this woman was Native American, she was Lakota, and he was showing me these hills where he was roaming and the grasslands. Her elders told her that he was going to the hunting grounds, and they described the hunting grounds just like I described to her, from the horse's mouth. Anyway, to tongue. So this horse was telling me all this stuff, and then it started reciting poetry that she had written.
Wow.
Crazy. You can't make this stuff up.
It's super cool though.
Yeah. So I love working with animals. I love, and people too. Animals are a little more fun.
It's interesting. I experienced exactly what you said last week when we were in group. I was reading somebody behind me, and when I tried to read them, I really received not much.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just strange for me because I tend to get something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I'm sure I got 2 or 3 things, and that was it. And I even said, I was like, I'm done. And I was like, can't believe I just said I'm done.
Was that one of the new people?
Yes, I hadn't seen her before.
Mm-hmm.
And then after we moved down the row and some other people were starting to read, she was not aware anymore. She just kind of let herself, the block come down.
Yeah.
Because I felt the block. I'm like, I didn't say it at the time, I told her later on, but the block came down. When the block came down, all of a sudden I got rushed with information, and I'm thinking, holy crap. So when she wound up in our group, and I told her the same thing, I said, when we did this is what I felt, as you know, because I told everybody as we're talking out loud. I said, but afterwards, you kind of weren't paying attention. You let the guard down, and this is what I got. And she's like, everybody tells me I block, and she said every time I try to get a reading, I try to read, I can't let people read me because and I said, I know it's subconscious, but it was funny that she finally had a chance to realize it for herself and see it.
Yeah.
So it does happen. It happens even with folks who are readers.
Oh, it does.
And
It
she was
does.
one of them.
See, I'm the person that's trying to send it, like, tell her this. Go ahead, Spirit, tell her this. I'm trying to send you the information so you can tell it back to me. So I'm doing it all wrong. But one of the greatest, there's a lot of things that I learned in class that I think is just great. One, you've always said to have a local group that you can get with. And this group here is very supportive. The second thing that you taught us was to be able to question spirit. Like, that is the greatest. Listen, every time someone says you can't do that, I'm like, Tina said that I can do. Tina said,
Yeah.
and so I always, that is the best.
So no
thing
wonder
for
spirit
me
world's mad at me.
is to question. Also to authenticate, because you always told us to be authentic and to get evidential. And so is this me? Is this spirit? Is that what you really want me to say? Is that how you want me to say it? So they know that it's all spirit and not me, and that was one of the great things that I love from being in your class. Is there some other things that you can tell people about who's like just starting their psychic or their mediumship journey, like to help them progress as we have?
Yeah, to me, it's about building a relationship with your spirit team. I call them friends. You might call them guides. But I call them friends because I work with them every day. I have a T-shirt that says, if you see me talking to myself, I'm just having a staff meeting. And I have staff meetings every morning in the shower because that's the time I'm alone and I start gathering, and it's first thing in the morning. So I tell them what I've got on the books. I tell them what clients I've got, what events I've got going on, and to show up and to be supportive. And but prior to that, I meditated every single day at the same time for an hour to 2 hours. And I really got connected with my guides. It didn't matter to me who they were, so I didn't know who my guides were. It came on much later that I found out who some of my guides were. And so I just knew that they were there and that they supported me, so I really didn't care about who they were. I would just talk to them, and I'd ask questions before I'd meditate, and then I'd meditate. Meditating at the same time every day, you're making an appointment with your spirit team, with your guides, your friends. They are not waiting around for you guys to show up and to start doing some work. They are off doing other things in spirit world. So when you make an appointment with them, more of your team is going to show up to come help you. That's the biggest thing, and that's one thing that I tell all beginners. Meditating is very important. Don't let meditation scare you. Meditation is just a form of quieting your mind and mind focus. You need that when you're communicating with spirit and you're doing psychic work, because you need to be focused on that person that's in front of you and their energies, and not be distracted around the room. That's why, you know, and when we do the groups, it gets loud in here and some people just can't handle it and they can't focus.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if that's the case, they might need to do some more mind focus exercises, so that they can quiet things out. Now, women have a hard time to zone in that much because we have a monkey mind and we're multitaskers. I mean, I personally can't walk through the house without doing a few different things as I'm walking through the house. I ask my son to put something away, and there might be several things of his on the way to his bedroom, but he only picks up that one thing because he doesn't see that the other things need to be picked up. That is more of a male characteristic. No, I'm not. There are some that have that ability to multitask and to be detail oriented, but the majority. So we have a hard time shutting our mind down. So meditating is getting lost in something. So I tell people, if you're to start out, there's probably an activity that you get lost in that you don't think about anything. I have a friend, she's my comadre, godmother type friend, and she washes dishes. She loves it because she gets lost in it. And I said, she can come over to my house anytime because I always have dishes. For me, it's like mucking stalls. I have horses, and when I'm out in the stalls and I'm cleaning, it's a mindless task, and I get lots of downloads with spirit. But you got to take it up a notch, and you really do need to quiet and to do a formal meditation.
Yes, I used to complain all the time about meditating, and then we realized that on my walk, that was my meditation. I don't do the traditional sit down, be still,
Right, no walking
quiet.
meditation.
But when I walk, I get a lot of downloads, and I realized that in this class. So.
Yeah, so there's different forms of meditation. So the thing is you're going to be guided by spirit on what works for you. And what works for me may not work for anybody else. And so just be true to yourself. You can be a round peg. You know, it'll fit. So you don't have to worry about that. But to me, it's listening to spirit, listening to what you're being guided to do, and to follow it. You can question it, though, but follow it.
Well, the strongest thing that I remember from day one, from you saying it day one, and it stuck with me. And even we have folks in the class that are new, when they stumble across the same thing, I tell them the same thing you said to me, because it really helped. In my mind, the phrase was suspend disbelief. If I were to be able to put my disbelief aside and just listen, take it as it comes, distribute it as it's given, and then let the cards fall where they may, then I would be the vessel that I'm intended to be.
Right.
And that was hard for me, because being an attorney and also being a logical-minded scientist, you know, these things were like, all this is difficult in that sense initially, but it's amazing how once you suspend that disbelief, that all of a sudden, the things that made no sense, it's clear to you that it wasn't meant to be making sense to you.
Right.
It's the person you're reading it to. And so when you tell them something that seems absolutely outlandish, and it falls on them, they're like, oh yeah, and you look at them and they smile, you're like, okay, I'm crazy, but they're happy, and they get it, and it makes sense to them. If I had disbelieved and said, okay, let me put my logical brain on and say, no one in the world would make sense of this, then this would not have happened. So that is the one lesson that sticks out to me most, and when anybody comes in. And so I appreciate it. I'm glad that you did that to me, because that's other people. There's other things that people do, but for that phrase just sticks with me always.
Well, you have to get out of your own way, and you have to have faith. And that's, again, I come back, a lot of people come to me that don't have faith in themselves and their abilities. I have some amazing, you guys are amazing. And I've watched you grow over the past year or so, and it's been amazing, the confidence that you've gotten and the information that you get. And it's only because you're starting to trust yourself. You're trusting spirit. You're building a relationship with your spirit team. They're coming through and giving you the information, and you know spirit doesn't waste information. So you're just delivering what they're giving you. And, that's the biggest thing, just trust. And I always, the biggest thing that helped me, because I would get really nervous during a read. I would just be like, oh, I hope they come through.
Yes.
What happened is I finally just decided, God isn't going to put this person in front of me if I can't help them or they can't help me. So it might be a dud of a read, but I learned a lot. That's spiritual growth. Or it could be a fantastic read. And so when I just let down, and I know it sounds cliche, let go, let God. I do believe in a divine creator source. I call it God. But when I just let everything up to God, and when they put someone in front of me, it's meant to be. And it's divinely perfect. And even if I am wrong, I'm learning.
Yeah.
And when you start to look at things, that there are no mistakes. That person was put in front of you for a reason. There's not a mistake. You sort of like breathe a little bit. It's like, okay, that's okay. You know, nobody's perfect. There's not one medium or psychic that's 100% out there. Trust me, I've had readings.
It took me a long time to believe her when she said that, because I was like,
There are some celebrity psychic mediums that back in the day I used to side eye like, I don't know if God told you to tell that person that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that doesn't, but it's being in my logical brain too. So.
has there ever been anything that has kind of spooked you or freaked you out in the spiritual world, or that's made you want to kind of step back?
Nothing's ever made me want to step back. You know, that spirit standing at the end of my bed, it freaked me out, but it didn't stop me. I wasn't like, oh, heck no, I'm not going to do this. No, I just kept getting pushed. I don't know why. I just did. There was one time in Tombstone, Arizona. Tombstone is where they fought OK Corral. They had so many deaths during that time frame that I think they had 2 or 3 full-time morgues in Tombstone. Now, at the same time in St. Louis, I'll give you a little contrast here. In St. Louis, they had 2 part-time morticians. Tombstone had several full-time morticians. So anyway, I went to the Tombstone morgue to do an event, and it was a mediumship event, but we did a tour and everything. That night we were doing the event, and we were sitting in a circle, and we had all of the ghost hunting equipment. It was really, really pretty cool. And but this is like something out of a horror movie. A black mist appeared on the floor, went across the floor, up the wall, across the ceiling, back down, and disappeared. And it was a big mist. That sort of freaked me out. I gotta say, that was like, okay. But I know that my energy feeds my fears. So if I drop into a fear mode, that energy can get bigger, can expand. And I didn't want that to happen. So I had to go to a happy place. See, I think it's something nice, something happy, you know, a good moment to raise my vibration, because I didn't want it to lower down into the frequency that entity, that energy was vibrating at. So yeah, so that freaked me out.
I would have run. So
I was thinking the same.
Definitely
You
lower
would've screamed
vibration.
at me.
The whole thing would have caved in, because I would have been screaming.
Well, wait till spirit touches you. Have you been touched?
Well, okay, last time we were in class, remember, I was sitting there and I felt like a spirit overlay on me.
Oh, that's right.
And it freaked
For
me
Tina,
out.
for
And
Tina.
you were so calm, like, tell him to go sit in the corner, go sit in the chair. And I'm like, what? Like, I literally feel this person sitting on me. I can see through their eyes. And I heard you talk about it many times, but until it happens to you, it's kind of like, what is really happening? And I could see their arms overlay on mine. And like I said, I could start seeing through their eyes. And it freaked me out. So I told you, we told them to go and sit somewhere else. And for the rest of the night, it was okay. But you just being in command like that, and, you know, being like, okay, tell them to move, tell them to this, tell you that. And I'm inside freaking out because they're taking over my body. But you're so calm and cool and collected. I'm just like, oh,
They can't take over your body. You know, that's, I don't really, that's not my belief that they can totally take over your body. And if that was the case, it'd be happening a lot. But they do blend with your auric field, and it feels like it. I've had a few instances with my mediumship reads where the connection was so great with the spirit, I asked them to blend with me. And they literally blend in my energy field, and I'm looking through their eyes. And it's really cool because it's very evidential. So I had this one lady that I did, that I allowed to come in, and I could see her legs, I could see her arms, I could see her body, and I could feel her body. And talk about the evidence about the legs and the swelling, and I mean, I could see it and feel it. So it was pretty cool.
Kind of like ghosts.
Yeah, kind of like Whoopi Goldberg who goes, yeah, I'll be Whoopi.
I will say that is one of the most.
And Patrick Swayze can come in anytime he wants.
I will say that is one of the most valuable things that I've learned in your class is to tell them that it's okay.
Yeah.
Move on or whatever, because I did have an entity that was, I guess, attached itself to me, and I don't know where it came from. And I told Angie, I said, I closed my eyes the other night, and it was like a little girl peeking out from behind the corner. And she was like, well, did she say who it was? And I was like, no, I don't know who she was. I don't know where she came from. And I think you had talked in class a little bit about this, about telling, like, I think you gave kind of a brief synopsis when I first started coming to class in September about, you know, it's okay to tell spirit to go away, or, you know, because I didn't really get into saging until probably this year is when I started saging, because that's when I started noticing a lot of activity. But when the little girl attached herself to me, like, I would hear the running across my roof, and I was like, what is that? Like, it can't be. Like, there cannot be a roof rat. I was like, what is this noise? Because I live in a one-story condo, so I'm like, what is that noise? I don't know what it was. And I think Sherry, one of the ladies in our class, she was like, you need to start saging. And that's when I started saging. And I think you had talked a little bit about it. I think at that time we had more new people coming in class, and you had mentioned it a little bit. So, and then prior to me coming to your class, like, I was a little nervous to come to class. Angie was kind of like my go-between. I met her at work, and then she introduced me to your class, and I started having this activity, and I was talking to her about it, and she was like, I go to this mediumship class, you should come. And then I came, and the day that I came, I think her and Kina, her sister, were getting a reading. And so I was like, okay, I like the energy when we were at the old building. I was like, I like the energy. And then I started coming to class, and like you said, like, you know, that being my first time reading someone, you're like, I hope I get something, you know what I mean? It was almost like I was forcing it, you know, because I was nervous, you know. So I do find, I have found that, like, I've learned so much more than I thought I did.
And this really isn't a teaching class. This is a practice group. I don't get an opportunity to teach like I do with I do teach mediumship classes when I have time. And there are classes that I do teach, but during these practice groups, if I have an opportunity to give you a little bit of information, a little bit of help, that's what I do. It's not a formal teaching. The thing is you wouldn't let a stranger in your house, so why let a ghost in your house? You know, and it's you have boundaries, healthy boundaries, and that's what the gatekeeper does. That's why I call her my bouncer. She makes sure that I'm okay. If a spirit gets through, it's for my spiritual growth. I needed that to happen, so I don't really worry about that. You know, people are when you approach it from a fear base, you're going to attract that. And I see people attract attachments and things like that because they resonate in a fear frequency. Frequency is very important. I look at all people as a frequency. I have it at a scale of 1 to 10. And a low vibration, you're going to attract, if you're vibrating low, you're going to attract low vibration energies, spirits. You might even get some attachments. It can happen.
I like like one other lesson that really stuck with me, and it was helpful this past Monday night when I tapped into that spirit that came through, and there was a younger child, and that was I think I would have been very much distraught, considering how disoriented, how confused, how angry that person was. But you had taught us a long time ago as well to not own the feeling, not own to not own the way they're feeling. Understand it, acknowledge it, appreciate it, even mimic it back to them so where they know that you get it, but don't own it. And that was so important because when I had to take that next step and help him try to find his way to the light, if I had owned that, I would have been a mess. I would have been in tears because, I mean, he was, and angry. I would have been ready to throw things around. He was such, the poor kid, I mean, didn't know where he was. He didn't know what had happened. He didn't know anything because it had just happened recently. And so I think that's a lesson that, if anything, one of the most important lessons you taught us is that one. And that is to make sure that don't own that emotion, because if you do, man, it can really wear you. And I'm so glad it didn't, because I was like, when you came around and you came over, I just stayed peaceful and I stayed calm and I just thought. And
that's where your attorney kicked in.
Exactly. And I kind of disconnected from that emotion, but understood it, felt it, took it totally in, reflected it back to the person I was reading for.
Right.
And then, and so that's a lesson. If anybody out there, if you do this, if you start working in this kind of work, the one thing you really should do is make sure that you don't own that emotion, because if you own it and you take it with you, you don't know where it could take you, and you really don't want to do that if you can help it.
Yeah, you can feel the emotion. Like today I had a reading with a woman and her father came through. My head started hurting really bad, this side, and I will feel what they felt when they were in life, but I don't own it. I ask them to impress upon me how they passed. I feel it, and then it stops. When I first started, I would really feel it, and I'm like, okay, you need to back away now, and they would. You know, they're very respectful, but yeah, you know, you don't want to own it, and that's when you're working with spirit, there can be residual. There's so much more out there than just spirits, though. There's lots of other things. I mean, where do you think they come up with all these sci-fi movies, all the ideas? Right. There's ETs, there's everything out there, okay? And the first time I saw an ET, I thought I was losing my mind. Because it's first, okay, now I see dead people. Now I'm seeing ETs. What else? And I erased that. It's like, what else am I going to see? But I do see a lot of what else now.
It's like the Eminem thing and Santa Claus, you are real. Like, it really is an ET out there.
Yeah. They really are out there, and I do see them. And I see attachments in people, energetic attachments, entity attachments, and I do remove those with the healing technique of the gold price light. I'm able to remove them, and people feel it. I mean, I had one lady one time, she was on my massage table, and I was doing a healing on her. And I know, you know, I don't touch my clients when I'm doing a healing unless Spirit tells me to, and then I inform the person. And anyway, so this woman, she's laying there, and she hears clairaudiently in her right ear, pulled her down. She's pinned down to the table, her arms are pinned down, and she feels something pulling out of her chest. She almost got up off the table and left. Now she's one of my really good clients, but I was pulling an attachment out of her chest at the same time. You can't make this stuff up.
How do you know if you have an attachment?
Oh, wow. Okay. Your mood shifts. You're irritable, you can feel tired, you can feel off, angry, all these emotions. I remember one time I went to a psychic fair, and this is why I don't do psychic fairs, but I picked up a major attachment. I woke up that morning because I had another fair to do, and I felt off. I'm like, gosh. And I was angry, and then my salt lamp, I went to move it, and the light bulb shattered on the floor, and I got angry, and my husband's like, well, maybe that's a sign from Spirit you shouldn't be going. That set me off even more, because I knew he was right. So I'm driving to the fair, and I'm angry, road rage. I never get this. And I'm like, something is wrong. So I call my friend up, she's a lifeline, and I'm talking to her, and I said, can you scan me? She goes, well, did you scan yourself? She always makes me do it. I'm like, no, I didn't. So I'm literally driving down the road, and I see myself, when I scan my body, I see myself pinned up against the wall with shackles on my arms, and my legs are spread and shackles on my legs. And I'm like, oh, heck no. So I remove the attachments with what I do with the gold price light as I'm driving. Don't tell anyone, no. It's published, so I'm going to let the cat out of the bag. I do that sometimes. And I felt better. But I picked that attachment up at the psychic fair that I went to the day before. And I had another psychic fair, and I would have canceled, but I was doing a public speech. And I'm like, okay. Because I won't work when I'm out of integrity, when I don't feel 100%, I won't work. I won't do readings or do healings or anything. And so I did the speech, and I didn't read anybody that day. I had people come up, and I'm just like, no, here's my flyers, here's the classes, and but I didn't read anybody because I didn't feel 100%.
I think that's great though, because I think that unfortunately this community is tapping into things and delving into material and subjects which are considered taboo for so many people. And also, it's not quantifiable. I mean, you can't, there's so many things that are just there, but you really can't nail it down. And so when that happens, the most important thing is your reputation. And the most important thing is to come across and make sure that people, first of all, find the trust in you, which is the evidentiary stuff you tell us about all the time. You're like, give them some evidence, let them know for sure, give them something so they know you are real, that you understand and you know their life, so that they can say, oh, yep, that's exactly the situation. And then secondly, make sure that if it is not there, if it's no more information, like when I felt blocked, cut it off, because guess what? It's like, I can't make it up, I won't make it up, because that's our reputation. And if any of us fail, then all of us fail. And so I think that that's probably one of the most important lessons as well, is that make sure that your reputation is the most important thing. So therefore, you're being honest, you're being forthright. I'll tell you, I sold a reading through my site, and this woman sent the thing like 2 or 3 times. And I said, I have sat down to do your reading. I started to do your reading, and I can tell you, it made no sense to me. And so eventually I said, I'm going to give you a refund. I'm going to pay your money back. I've tried 3 times, and I said, eventually I will sit down, hopefully, and I will have a good reading for you. And when I do, I'll give it to you for free, because I feel bad that I couldn't. But I said at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and make something up for you. That's just not going to happen.
Well, it feels icky when you're trying to force a read. It's like walking in quicksand.
Mm-hmm.
It's just an icky energy feeling, and it just doesn't flow. It's not working, and that's when you know you need to cut bait and leave. Mm-hmm. And so many people feel like they have to push the read. They have to provide a good reading. You can just be honest. I'd rather have somebody say, oh, she didn't read me, she wasn't that good, but she didn't charge me. Mm-hmm. I'd rather have them say that than, oh, it's a terrible read, she didn't know what she was doing, and she charged me on top of it.
Well, you know the individual I just spoke of, I sent the thing back, and she said, I understand, I'm good. Yesterday I got a review, and it was something like very good and honest. Yeah. And I was like, you could not give me a better compliment than that. Yeah, and I thought, you know what, that meant more, not more. I love when people give me great reviews, but
honest and a great reader.
Absolutely, yeah. The honesty part was very important to me.
You got to be in integrity, because I'm not going to jeopardize my relationship with Spirit and God for anybody. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to change things because somebody wants me to change. If Spirit's guiding me to do it that way and God's guiding me to do it a certain way, I'm not going to jeopardize that relationship for anybody. I had that happen. I was doing a healing circle in England, and it was a spiritualist conference. And I was on the healing team, and when they told me that they wanted me on the healing team, this blip in my mind goes, they do know what I do, right? They do know that because I don't do it like anybody else. And that time they were really moving my body. Spirit, when they were channeling through me, they were moving me all over. And I'm like, yeah, of course they know. So my first day there, I'm doing healings, and I'm moving all over. I'm standing behind the person, and I'm doing all this. Second day I go in, they pull me off to the side, and they go, there's been a few complaints that your healing is disturbing. I'm like, really? And they said, and she was like really sweet about it, and she didn't even really want to talk to me about it, but she needed to because it was presented to her. And I said, I understand. She goes, do you think you can tone it down? And I'm like, well, it's up to Spirit. So I did the healings, and they did not tone it down. And I'm thinking,
I would have went up even higher. And like, oh no.
And I did exactly what Spirit was guiding me to do. And then afterwards, I told her, I said, I'm sorry, that's the best that we're going to be able to do. And if you want me to sit at the intake table and taking people in, I'd be more than happy to do that. And she goes, no. She goes, that's okay, because people are waiting to sit in your chair. As far as I'm concerned, if I stand on my head, it shouldn't matter. If the results are the results.
Yes.
But there are, and this is where I talk about being your unique self. Because there's going to be haters out there. There's going to be people out there that are going to say you're not doing it the right way. Don't let them discourage you. And I felt so strongly, I'm thinking, I'm not going to let anybody come between me and Spirit. My connection with Spirit, I've worked so hard to build up a relationship with my friends that I'm not going to let anybody come in between that. And I stood firm. And sometimes I think Spirit gives you little tests to say, are you going to stand in integrity?
As we start to wrap this up, the one thing that I would think that a number of people may have out there, big question, is, okay, this is something I want to do, this is something I would love to get down that road. If I chose to take this into a realm where I could actually make money from it, can someone make a living doing this?
Yes. It's like anything else. If you have a poverty consciousness, you're not going to make money. And, like the starving artists. Some artists believe that they're going to live in poverty to be a good artist. There are some practitioners that believe that you don't make that much money at it. It's not lucrative. It's a hobby or whatever. I support my family with this. So you can make a living out of doing it, but you need to run it like a business, and build your business, build your clientele. It can happen. Staying in integrity, being honest, treating people with respect. All of those things help build a business. And don't be afraid to ask for money, because I find that sometimes when I do something for free for someone, they don't appreciate it. They appreciate it more if they spend money on it. And so there is a way of making money, and I don't really charge an exorbitant amount. I try to be extremely fair. I want to reach the blue-collar workers. I want to reach the masses. That is my intent. So my classes, Monday nights are $10, Saturdays are $10. My teaching classes are $25. My mediumship series is $199, and that's 6 classes, 2-hour classes. So I do keep it reasonable so that the common folk, like me, can afford it. Yeah, and
well, where can people find information about you? This is your opportunity. Sell yourself.
Okay, sell myself.
Some webpage and phone numbers and.
My webpage is my name, www.tinaescoto.com. That's TINAESCOTO. My Facebook page is Mystic Horse Journeys. That's my professional page. I also have a personal page, which is Tina Escoto. And all of my events are on my website. I hold, like this month, I have 9 events, plus 8 classes, and then I have clients on top of that. So I stay really, really busy. Instagram.
So you take personal readings?
I do personal readings, I do healings, I do mentoring, spiritual guidance, psychic, mediumship, and
yes, she juggles that with the family.
Yeah, with the family. Yes, I know.
Spiritual lipo.
I do psychic lipo. I know that sounds crazy, but I do that. I have one client that she works out, she exercises, and she can't lose the belly fat. And as a fluke, she says, can you do a little tummy tuck on me one time when I was doing healing on her? I'm like, well, why not? Anything's possible. So I started doing psychic lipo on her, and her belly started going down. She went down 2 sizes and didn't change anything. So, and I just did it as an experiment with her. Spirit said, why not? And to me, anything is possible. I got to say, give my mom kudos. My mom always said, you can do anything you want to do, you can be anything you want to be, you just have to set your mind to it. I didn't realize how important that was, that tool that she gave me, because I believe I could do anything. I believe that if you get an attachment, I can remove it. If you need your belly reduced, Spirit can do that too. So anyway, getting off track here, but now I lost track.
You do it all.
I do it all. But yeah, the mentorship, the one-on-one. I don't time my healing sessions. I do chakra tune-ups, which I'm going to be teaching a class this Sunday on, about how to intuitively read your chakras with tuning forks, crystals, and to align your chakras and align the energy centers in your body through frequency and vibration. So I do all kinds of stuff. I think there are no limitations on what spirit can do when you have a relationship with them.
We'd also like to thank Just Rocks for supplying the location today.
Yeah, everything.
It's here in Tempe, Arizona, so if you're interested in something, stop by. Also, they do, again, rocks, stones, and metaphysical stuff.
She has tons of classes here. I teach a lot of classes here. I'm doing a Gold Christ Light healing meditation this Saturday night. Sunday it's a chakra tuning fork class. Friday night is a drum circle. That's something new. Spirit keeps giving me drums, and I'm like, really? Like, I need more things to do. But evidently, I'm working with drums now.
And then for us, don't hesitate to check out more content, information, everything on Just Spiritually Speaking. That's on all the social media platforms. I wouldn't say all, but pretty much all of them. So check it out, Just Spiritually Speaking. And speaking for Angie, Tanisha, and myself, we're going to say goodbye. So thanks for dropping in. Thanks for watching this one. And there'll be many more interviews to come. Thank you, Tina, so much.
Thank you. It's fun.
Thank you, Tina.
Hey, I'm Don. Welcome back to Just Spiritually Speaking.
It's gonna
This
be
is
a
what happened the first time we
long
viewed. He kept cracking himself up. And he turned 50 shades of red. That time.
Exactly. Let's do it one more time. Ready? Well, at least one more time. It's warm here.
It is. That's what I'm trying to
Hello, and welcome back to Sonoran Mystic Tarot. I am Don. Kill that.
Yeah.
The other side. That happens sometimes. I switch between
It's
the two
going
sides.
on down here.
I'm like, wait a minute, that wasn't Just Spiritually Speaking. That was
Okay.
the other one. Anyway, okay. Hey, it's Don. Welcome back to Just Spiritually Speaking. Oh, you know what I did?
You want me to say it? No.
Okay, here we go.
Clap.
Not getting nobody stop laughing. Oh my God.
Okay, good
Hey, good, it
job.
brings the vibration up there. It's good
It
level.
does.
Good level. Hey, I'm Don. This is Angie. This is Tanisha, and we are.
Just spiritually speaking.
And today we are starting our segment on interviews of folks who are involved in the metaphysical community. And who better to start with than Phoenix's own?
We was doing so good.
I can tell he was getting there. I was
I
like,
know,
it's
it's
going
like,
down. It's
this is
going
not
down.
One more time.
I
Okay.
think Spirit is messing with us. I do.
It's the incense. Okay.
It's making you high.
Or maybe I need to get high.
Yeah. Maybe we should have smoked a bowl before we did this, guys.
Exactly. Ooh,
I
okay.
came with you, Tina.